Hello, I'm Chef Jacquy Pfeiffer, the co-founder of the French Pastry School in Chicago, and today I will show you how to make a chocolate croissant and rye bread.
Whether going for the crackly crust of an artisan bread or the flaky goodness of a breakfast pastry, making great bread requires quality ingredients, attention to detail, and of course, the proper utensils. There's no better way to start your morning than with a warm chocolate croissant. First, you need a large clean surface. Then, take your prepared chilled dough from the refrigerator. Apply a dusting of flour to your work surface to keep the dough from sticking. Also, sprinkle your dough with flour and begin rolling it out by hand into a long rectangle. Continue to sprinkle flour on your work surface and dough as you roll it with a rolling pin. Be aware that you will need to refrigerate the dough during this process because the butter gets warm as you work with the dough, and it's important to cool the butter so that you can get the flaky, airy crust we love with croissants. As you continue to roll out the dough and get it ready to eventually cut into squares, you need to turn the dough lengthwise and roll it out again into a long rectangle. Now, use the dough wheel and extend it to its full width. Tighten the screw to hold it in place. Line the dough wheel with where you want to split the dough in the middle and carefully guide the dough wheel along the length of your dough. Then make any adjustments to the dough wheel and line it up to make vertical cuts to the dough. Each time you move across the dough, be sure to line the left wheel with the last line cut. When you are finished, you have neat, straight, consistent squares of dough. Remove any excess and score the dough where needed to make clean cuts along the squares. Place a stick of dark chocolate at the bottom of each square of dough. Then roll the dough around the chocolate stick in a jelly roll fashion, putting the seam at the bottom. Place rolled croissants at an angle on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Using a pastry brush, apply the first coating of egg wash, made with eggs, cream, water, and a pinch of salt to the dough. Place the croissants in a proofer at 80 degrees Fahrenheit or let rise in a warm and humid place. Once dough is risen or proofed, apply the second layer of egg wash to all the croissants. Slide your tray into the oven and bake 6 to 7 minutes with vent closed, then 6 to 7 minutes with vent open. Using protective oven mitts, remove the croissants from the oven. They will be golden brown with a flaky crust. Allow them to cool, then remove the croissants from the baking tray and place on the platter of your choice. Good enough to eat. A great French croissant filled with fine chocolate. For picture-perfect country rye bread, always start by preparing your bread proofer. Sift flour around the sides and into the bottom of the dish. Depending on the type of bread, it may also be recommended to lightly oil the proofer. Using a scraper, remove your bread dough, which is now risen, out of the bowl and onto your work surface. The scraper allows you to easily scrape the edges of the bowl in order to get all the dough. Next, cut a portion of the dough with the dough cutter and weigh it. You want about 500 grams of dough for each loaf. Do this until all your dough has been divided. The small scraper allows for you to easily work with the dough. On a floured surface, use your hands to shape each section of your dough into individual conformed mounds. Then take a mound of dough, rolling and molding it to your desired loaf shape and size. Place the loaf into your prepared proofer. This proofer is vented so that humidity in the air and warm air in the proofer allows the dough to rise. After proofing, remove your dough from the proofing pan onto a baking sheet. The proofer leaves a beautiful pattern that will bake into the bread. Using a cutting blade, score the dough in a single line across the top to allow the steam to release. Place the bread into the oven and bake. After 35 minutes, use your oven mitts to remove the bread from the oven. The bread will have a crackly crust and the dusted flour from the proofer leaves the loaf with a wonderful rustic look.